Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. I'm sounding about a bit like a BBC presenter there. But welcome, more importantly, to the Digital and Social Summit of 2025, brought to you by We Are Social. A number of chats going on this week, whereby we'll be talking about all things digital and indeed social. A little bit about the legitimacy of why we've started to do this summit and continue to do this summit. We are an agency that was born in the age of social. We consider ourselves to be unrivaled in the world of social media and certainly kind of in influencer marketing. We have approximately 1,200 people across the globe working in about 19 plus offices. And so we're fully fledged to service, obviously, a number of clients across the globe, across obviously all our regions. However, that's not really the important bit. Well, it is the important bit, but what is more important is the panelists I've got joining me today. We have none other than Dipashri Das, who is the Senior Marketing, Tech and Entertainment Guru from Amazon. And then we have the creative of all creative strategists, Nick Burrows from Google Asia Pacific. And I can happily say I've worked with both of these titans throughout my career. I'm Anton Reiniers, the humble head of strategy of We Are Social in Singapore. And what we're going to be talking about today is how brands can navigate the AI effect on social media. Big topic, obviously, AI, and certainly kind of its influence on social media. And to kick us off, we've got a few data points that we wanted to share and a few kind of provocations to kick things off. Now, I don't really like jumping on AI-generated image trends, and that's why this wasn't done by me, but the lovely page in my office. I can happily say, though, there's no action figure of me running around the internet, but we are seeing everybody jump on these trends, which is potentially creating an element of sameness, really, and also a little bit of controversy, certainly when it comes to the sustainability of everyone jumping on to these mass trends, something to be discussed later, potentially. However, when we think of what is, I suppose, the most aware, or I guess the most loudest, or indeed the kind of most considered or the most talked about LLM, it is ChatGPT. And we've seen huge growth when it comes to not only the mobile apps ranking, so its downloads have shot straight up to #1 in the global charts, which is massive considering it hasn't been around for that long, really, if we think about it. But not only that, but gone to the third in terms of global ranking when it comes to spend and monthly active users. So we're seeing a huge kind of growth there. And then we also have a number of figures that are coming out between 3.5 billion and 4.7 billion in terms of monthly average total visits, making it one of the top 10 most visited websites in the world when we think of the browser version of it, which again is huge considering it's not been available for that long, really. Now, with that growth has come concerns, understandably so. I think we're all aware of what's real, what's fake, kind of controversy that's hitting the world today. We're seeing a data point such as, nearly 60% of adults are concerned about what is real and what is fake on the internet today. Pretty much a 5.3 year-on-year growth, which is staggering, actually, when you think of it as terms of global figures. We even have something here today to kind of share with you. So in the, if you can kind of see the comment section, we have 2 images here. One is real, one is fake. Is it the animal that I'm told isn't a dingo, but looks like a dingo? Or is it indeed Prince William, who does have 5 fingers, embracing his brother Harry and putting everything aside, such as that questionable documentary? And of course, it's the fake one because no one's really going to forgive that documentary. But in sense, we can start to see generated imagery that is getting to be pretty real. I've been told that I have to put fake on this left-hand image for legal purposes. Rightly or wrongly, this is or is not Donald Trump being arrested, but is also on the right-hand side what we can start seeing when it comes to video-generated content. This is coming again from OpenAI's Sero engine, and we're essentially being able to see just from prompts something looking incredibly real. Sorry was the pronunciation of it. But again, looking incredibly and amazingly real. And that's only the tip of the iceberg of where we're at now. Not only that, but when we're thinking about social, we're also starting to see the likes of ChatGPT becoming people's friends or people's therapist, or guidance counselor. And as a survey of one, I can say it does a pretty good job at it, really. But it is something to be concerned, certainly when it, are we talking to real people or are we not? And ChatGPT being able to actually do a pretty good job in terms of emulating that. Again, something to be discussed. Without further ado, we are now going to jump into the topic of how brands can navigate the AI effect on social media. Please do put questions throughout in the comments section. And I'm going to jump right into it. I'm going to minimize my screen here. And I'm going to be able to have Dee and Nick ready to rock and roll. Dee, you're on mute, I think, possibly. Now you're ready to go. Okay, cool. So we're going to kick it off, whereby a number of people have started to question AI in terms of its quality. Would you say that arguably it could be just a bunch of predictable junk that's coming out and being thrown into social media? Question mark, I suppose. So Dee, I'd love to start with you and what you think about that.
To be very honest, Anton, thank you for asking this very important and controversial question. My personal opinion is that I think it's making brand content faster and some would even argue more efficient and more consistent, but not necessarily better, or at least I haven't seen anything that stood out and made me sit back and say, oh wow, I'm so challenged by this should win like a Cannes or something. So I think I have seen enhancements for sure, especially from brands that I know are using it as a collaborative tool versus like as a complete replacement for human creativity. I think what we are beginning to see, and we are, like you said, really just at the scratch of the tip of the iceberg. We are seeing a kind of this gold rush of brands that are wanting to treat AI as a magic solution that produces almost like a slot machine of generic predictable content. And then there is another who are hopefully taking a little more storied view, a more strategic view to use AI to look at more human insights, to strategize, to amplify human insights and creativity, and therefore are at least trying to create more engaging work, and therefore free up the time for creative and original thinking. But to answer your question, until now, have I seen anything that has wowed my socks off? No, to be honest, not really.
Nothing's blowing your mind then?
Not really, not yet.
Nick, you love to
Hello,
talk
thank
creativity.
you.
What do you think? Predictable junk or not?
Hey, look, if advertising and marketing has done a really good job of putting out a lot of predictable junk so far, I think that it's fair to say that AI just makes that a lot more efficient and consistent. So, yeah, like I think to be fair though, we're just scratching the surface to the point that Dee made, and it's only just I think God, it's such a short time frame. It's only just started to push the boundaries of genuine creativity, right? Stuff's just starting to become accessible in a very photorealistic way. So, it's a bit early to judge, but generally speaking, I would say that AI has done a lot to work in the background at being efficient and consistent. The opportunities to have it do something a bit more special rather than just, keep pushing the sea of same in a very generic space.
Well, that actually leads on quite nicely to my next question, Nick. It's as if you've seen these before. But to the point where we've investigated and kind of obviously done a little bit of an audit into clients and brands. And what we found, the main use of it is essentially a pipeline of mass-produced digital social assets, for example. Now, rightly or wrongly, I guess a thought is that, it should be stepped up in terms of having a bigger role, not only potentially in client and brands organizations, but also within creative agencies. But do you think that therefore, and I think you kind of almost was starting to get into that kind of answer, is it really stepping up to what it could do given what and how many clients are using it? Or our clients actually using it potentially in a way that's different to our understanding, which is just to create mass amounts of digital social assets. Nick, we'll start with
Oh, I
you.
go first.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that AI has already stepped up, right? Like there's so much going on in the background that we don't get to see by way of creative or, an expression. Its ability to help, find audiences, guide strategy, suggest creative topics or domains to go and play in, even down to the measurement and, reporting back. Like that's already at play. So I would say it gets better, and again, like more efficient is better. But it has already stepped up to a bigger role, and I think that will only continue to go. I'm already seeing, and they've been awful, but some 100% created by AI, fake social person assets out there. Some, gosh, a lot of Elon Musk is out there doing some talking that isn't Elon Musk.
Yes.
But so there's a lot of stuff, but AI really has already stepped up as kind of where I would go with that. You're going to see much more interesting work, I think, that's pushing the boundaries of personalization, and certainly doing that at a level of scale that we're not used to seeing. So that will continue to happen, and I just think that we owe it on ourselves to just keep pushing the boundaries of where that goes.
Cool. And Dee, in terms of, I suppose, your understanding of organizations and the way brands are starting to use AI when it comes to, I suppose, communications, are they using it in way more sophisticated ways than just kind of making lots of digital assets, or are they actually using it in much bigger ways?
I want to make a joke, like you cannot step onto LinkedIn today. It's a landmine, right?
Yes.
Of here's how 10 ways that you can use AI to generate 55 digital posts in exactly 10 seconds. It's literally one post after another. And to be very fair, those assets look really good, like the kind of stuff that you'd have to have a whole crew to produce. So I'm not taking anything away from them, but I think what Nick very rightly said is the next frontier is already upon us, Anton. I think there are brands that are already starting to use AI, just from going from, hey, I can do these digital and social assets, to say, that's great, but can AI also help me identify, let's say, cultural moments or trends before they peak? Can AI help me, let's say, predict audience sentiment shifts, or can they help me? And that's really the next frontier. Can they help me develop adaptive content strategies, right? Like you can make all the assets in the world, but if you don't have a content strategy guiding that asset creation machine, you will be as lost as you were day before yesterday. So I think for brands, the most forward-thinking brands, what I assume they are doing in their labs is using AI to uncover insights from vast data sets, which prior to AI would be a very time-taking, laborious, and expensive exercise, and boring, to be very honest. But then you can now use AI to use these insights to form truly original creative ideas. You have honestly freed up the time for creative people such as yourself and Nick to now come up with something that hits me as a consumer, or enables a brand like myself to really go to market with a truly original idea. I would like for brands to use AI that way. While I'm really grateful that it's helping me pump out those digital assets, it's going to be a matter of months before everybody's pumping that out. So that's the differentiation we are going to lose. But what's going to differentiate me from someone else pumping out those assets is the next frontier that we're talking about.
Yeah. I mean, I heard a really nice term that instead of like using it as or naming it artificial intelligence, it's augmented intelligence, whereby it's augmenting us as people to do our jobs better. I mean, anecdotally, I've kind of heard that it's great now to be a law graduate, because when you step into a law firm, you don't have to do all of that kind of case searching and stuff. And now actually that's been taken away when you're an entry point lawyer. So I guess, companies, brands, organizations, service industries are all kind of starting to embrace it in a different way.
I missed my vocation. I wanted to be a lawyer, and then I realized there's a lot of studying involved, and I said, no, cannot make it. And now it's too late.
Now is the time. Your second career, Dee. There you go.
Too late.
And talking, I mean, we touched on it a bit in terms of, I guess, that worrying issue and that worrying stat around what's real, what's fake. Now, given the fact that when we're working with influencers, the one kind of word that pops, everywhere is around authenticity. And with AI kind of coming in, I suppose, and certainly given the fact that, the monetization of influencers, etc., there is a desperate need and a desperate cry out for the authenticity of influencers. Do you see that, AI having a bit of a conflict now, therefore, because influencers on the one hand are obviously, creating authentic content and trying to be very authentic, and AI is out there kind of essentially putting out content based on, predictable models, etc., and therefore the authenticity of that content is potentially questionable. What do you think about that, Dee, around I guess the issue around authenticity, and does AI compromise authenticity in the world of social?
100%. I want to say that even before we got so deeply involved in the world of AI and started talking so much about it since last year, Japan already had virtual influencers, and they were really big, and they were making more money than a lot of human influencers, right? If you ask me, authenticity is going to be the next currency, like how attention is our currency right now, right? Authenticity is becoming extremely valuable, and not less valuable as AI proliferates, right? So I think as human beings, our authenticity detector is going to go up, Anton, as AI becomes like a huge part, almost an indelible, unavoidable part of our lives. Like, just to give you my own example, I have developed a radar for detecting AI written emails, AI generated questions, AI generated notes. And that isn't necessarily bad. It's great that you are using AI to write better, be a better person. But it hasn't taken me more than 3 months to develop that authenticity detector, or that AI detector, right? So I'm not necessarily rejecting it, but I would have appreciated had you told me that you have used that. So I think that's step number one. And I think step number two is that as we become more hungry for authenticity, for the human intention, for the human imperfection and human values, brands that embody that are going to find that their currency with human beings, with human consumers, is actually going to go up. So I think the if you can, as a brand, play in the friction between that authenticity, that imperfection that comes with being human, and the AI that enables you to just run things more efficiently and more effectively, while accepting that you are using AI, not a problem that you are, but accepting that you are using it to get ahead, that's good. But as long as it reflects my genuine brand values, and I'm being open and honest about it, because it enables me to be of better service to you, my customers, there's no problem. But not disclosing it and pretending that it's something else, that I think is going to be a huge problem, because the customer, sorry, pardon my French, is going to call bullshit on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And no need to worry about the swearing, it's fine. Nick, talk to me about authenticity. What do you think?
You really don't mind if I swear? I'm not going to do it. That would be more the authentic version of me. It would be a little bit more sweary, wouldn't it?
It would be.
Look, authenticity was certainly, peak importance before the last couple of years, right? So it's incredibly important, and I think it's been one of those values that's been picked up upon by the Gen Zs and younger consumers coming into space. Authenticity is as important as it ever was, if not more so. In the age of AI, that just makes it more critical for us to be aware of it and to be transparent about it. I think Dee kind of summed that up really well. That ability to be genuine needs to come through. It needs to come through in how we talk and how brands communicate. They know that the consumers are going to call them out if they're faking it, or they're using AI to fake it too much. But having said that, if you're being transparent and authentic about how you're using AI, that's okay. You know what I mean? So like to the point that Dee mentioned about the the digital influencers. Yeah, that's okay, because everybody knows they're digital influencers. They're transparent about that. That is authenticity in that context.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Understood. So almost a disclosure of this is an AI generated message.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And okay, let's face it. It's a scary imaginary world. But let's say that these digital or AI influencers come to live within us or amidst us, right? There is only a certain extent to which I'll be interested in their lives because it's make believe. But what I am interested in real human influencers is because they have lives like me.
Yeah.
I saw somewhere, I'm sorry that I can't recall, but it's a beautiful Instagram account where this person was talking about the difference between us as humans and AI is that they don't know pain, they don't
Yeah.
know sorrow. Our common connection as human beings is pain. And
Empathy.
I'm not saying an empathy, right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying that I want to see your pain, but it's that common pain, that universal connection of pain that bonds me to an influencer. When an influencer breaks down and says, I went from rags to riches, that's why I follow you. You
Yeah.
cannot say that for an AI influencer.
Yeah.
And that imperfection, that authenticity that comes with the lived experience of being a flawed human being, an AI influencer will never be able to imbibe. Yes, I like you for your flawless skin and your hair and whatnot, but you're not real,
Yeah.
right? I
Yeah.
think there will be a line drawn in the sand at some point of time. You can only take it that far.
And I mean, we mentioned, I suppose, the disclosure element in terms of,
Yeah.
brands, I guess, striving for, trust in a world that can be faked. Nick, would you say that there's other methods that brands could think of or indeed embrace in order to try and, I suppose, establish trust in the world where everyone's a bit suspicious of what's real and what's not?
Yeah, so again, being consistent in how like you treat AI and or representing it to your audience is super important, right? Have a point of view around how you disclose these things as a brand. Like to the point I mentioned earlier, though, there is a lot of stuff going on in the background that is being driven by AI that isn't necessarily important to actually disclose. Like we helped find this influencer by using AI, like not important. But where
Yeah.
you're using AI in creative and in representations of people, I think it's really important to disclose them. I know that, I was watching some brands wrestle with this idea of like, at what point is it okay for us to use AI generated human models, right? That's a big ethical discussion. And I think, if your brand's value is all about empowering human beings and, giving back to the community, then that's going to be a pretty hard bridge to cross. You'll certainly want to disclose it, and you'll certainly want to be paying attention to any feedback you get. If you get that feedback, you're likely to. So, be true to your brand values, but also, be managing any audience expectations in the way that you flag kind of what you're doing, and expect some sensitivity around it. But I do think, it doesn't have to go on everything, but on the key stuff, particularly when it's close to your brand values, it is super important to make sure it is being flagged.
Yeah.
Have a point of view as a brand about how you disclose that information is, I think, important.
And should that point of view be publicly put out there by the brand into the world?
Yeah, I think so. Like if for example you're a large manufacturer or big brand and sports good and you've done a lot to promote different types of models, inclusivity and or as well as athletes and supporting junior athletes, and yet all of a sudden you start using AI models in all of your marketing, you're taking money from somewhere. You're not giving someone a help somewhere. So I do think that as a brand, make a decision, have a claim. Some brands are already stating that they won't do those things. So I do think that actually can become an asset for a brand too. If you take a position on this and you're consistent in that position and you manage the expectations of your consumers accordingly.
Yeah. And it's it's a brave and scary world that I think we mentioned, and we've mentioned it a few times, we're at the tip of the iceberg of it. When you think of, I suppose, social media specifically and the use of AI, and I'll make this a bit of a punchier question, what do you think brands are doing that's like so wrong? It's like, my goodness, I can't believe you're doing that.
Wow. Okay. I mean, I'm on that side, so I'm probably doing that as well. I
Talk about
think
your
that,
competitors, it's fine.
well, I mean, we are in it together, so no harm being self-critical. I think because we are, it's like I almost think like is when we got started with Google search as marketers, and we equally lost, so it's okay to be lost, right? So I think one of the biggest mistakes is one of the two. Are we treating AI as either a complete solution to all our problems, and that's not the case, or are we thinking that this is a mere execution tool that will replace our entire creative ecosystem? That's also a really huge mistake, right? The third one is what I said earlier, that many marketers are misjudging uh, the audience's sophistication when it comes to creativity or creative consumption, because while we have become sophisticated and we have matured, so have the audience. So
Yeah.
consumers can increasingly tell when the content lacks authenticity or a genuine connection or an originality or an original thought, regardless of how visually polished it is. And they are going to increasingly reject it if you are going to be, how they say, too polished about it, which is why they say, why is TikTok such a big success? Because it's not polished, because it's raw, right? So I
Yeah.
think that's another mistake that all of us as brands are making on it. And I think the last thing that I want to add is, who doesn't love efficiency in today's day and time? Of course, we would all love to be efficient, but my request is, as marketers, an over focus on efficiency without equal attention to effectiveness, which honestly comes from a differentiation strategy. Let's not lose that. Let's continue to be unique and differentiated. Let's have what Nick said, a unique point of view on the world as a brand. Let's not lose that at the huge desire to have efficiency, because guess what, this is this magic solution that has now come, and I can get rid of the entire team, uh, including myself someday, to do this entire marketing automation using AI. No, that's not the point. The point is to do the stuff that isn't really, it's what we call low value tasks, so that you
Yeah.
could become better and better at taking the brand's point of view to the world. So let's not lose differentiation at the cost of efficiency. So I'd say these are 3 or 4 things that I think we should be careful about as brands and marketers.
Excellent. Thank you. And Nick, from your observations, what would you scathingly say brands are getting completely wrong when it comes to social and AI?
I think, like, the number one thing I've heard, just to talk to what Dee kind of mentioned, was, can I use this to like get rid of my agency? It's
Wow.
you know what I mean? Like, it's all about like, how do I just not pay someone?
How did that go
Um,
after that? How did that go when that action was taken?
but yeah, not so good, right? Like, I have seen such incredible experiments being done with people who are creatives playing with AI in, saying, can I build this a 30-second ad from scratch? And like, the work is there, but you can so tell that, like, without that craftsmanship or that expertise or that eye or that vision, it's not going to work. Where did we start? Predictable junk. Like, it's the
Yeah.
from a strategist perspective, or like the bad planners ad, you'll just get more of that. Like yeah, to the point. It's not about efficiency. Yes, efficiency is nice, but if you're not thinking about like where you're raising the roof and not just kind of impacting the efficiency floor, you're kind of missing the opportunity. So that's kind of one area I would say, look, take it as an opportunity to do something better, genuinely good, and use that tool to do things you haven't been able to do before, rather than be so limiting in that attitude of like, yeah, but I can reduce production costs. It's like,
Yeah.
yes, like, we'll be doing less dross, but reinvest into better. You know what I mean? Reinvest into great.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it was, sorry, Dee.
Sorry to interrupt. I just feel like I don't know if AI came to think for us. It came to think with us. It
Yeah.
came to do a little bit of execution with us. But like when we just, it's almost as if we're like, okay, here's our brain, take it and do it. No, that's not the point. The point is it should enable us to be better and do better. It isn't for us to
Mm.
sit back and retire. Like if AI took over everything, what exactly are we doing?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
not the entire point of AI, is it? Like that's where when
Yeah.
Nick says, "Okay, I'm going to get rid of my agency," and what? Then what?
Then what? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting because I mean, I think it was towards the end of last year, the advertising community was divided when Coca-Cola came out with its
Oh,
AI generated ad, and everyone was saying, "That's amazing! Can you see the quality of that?" And then the rest of the world was kind of saying, "Yeah, but that's basically been generated on decades and decades and decades of previous work that looks pretty much like that. It just did it in a different way and shuffled it about a little bit."
But
And
also,
so,
you're also dreaming if you don't think that like there were creative people guiding every single prompt through that process. There was
exactly.
editing, there was
Yes.
grading, there was like a ton of craft and skill being applied against the investment,
Yes. Yes.
right?
So
and
yeah.
without any disrespect to anyone, may I just say that that is one of my least favorite Coke ads, and I love Coca-Cola ads. I just thought there was so much artifice in it. There was no emotion, and it just felt very, very machine generated to me.
Yeah.
And Coke always manages to evoke emotions, um, and it just didn't. It just left me cold, and I'm like, what is the big deal about? And
Yeah.
frankly, the first time I saw it, I didn't even know it was AI generated. I just thought it was weird.
Yeah, I mean, it followed in line with the whole holidays are coming kind of theme, but I think again divided the world. Some thought it was a feat of awesomeness in terms of creative production, and others
Yeah.
kind of felt that it was basically following a predictable line of creative ads that looked pretty much like that anyway. So, and I think
It can
because
be
of
both. Like it
yeah,
really can be both. And
it
you
could be
know, at the end of the day, I enjoyed the discussion around. I mean, this comes back to being transparent, right? Like people were aware it was an AI generated ad, and so it created some interesting discussion and feelings off the back of that.
yeah.
Consumers didn't seem to mind.
Exactly. Exactly.
See, yeah, that's that.
Yeah, they didn't seem to mind. Yeah.
We tend to be in our echo chamber a
Yeah,
lot.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't love it myself, but it's a Coke ad. I'm unlikely to love it.
Yeah, and
But yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Fair enough. Yeah, that's
I mean,
fair.
I mean, another kind of point of view, certainly from the creative community, is that creative ideation in itself is based on an element of unpredictability, the chaotic clash of different things coming together to make a unique idea, which flies in the face of how AI works. Predictable in terms of measuring patterns and therefore kind of producing answers and responses based on patterns. So with that in mind, and given the fact that we've just been talking, I suppose, about kind of creative generated work, and I think this would be interesting coming from yourselves who have either Nick worked in creative agencies but are now kind of essentially on that client side, or Dee, you've worked with a number of creative agencies and put out kind of some of the most fantastic kind of campaigns between the likes of Netflix and Amazon. What would your thoughts be in terms of the art directors and the copywriters of the future needing to embrace and do in order to fully maximize the creative power of AI? Dee, throw that one at you first.
That's such a tough one, no?
It's straightforward.
Really? I
It is.
think
It is a bit tough. It is tough. It is a tough one.
I think that they have such a tough job cut out for them. I think that they can become I genuinely think, and I'm not saying this, I think they will become the most prized creative jobs or creative personnel in the industry. You said it, that AI can maintain that consistent tone, and it's based on what we feed it, on what it knows, but the magic that comes out of chaos and is what we call the crucible of creativity, that's born out of, the unexpected connections, the cultural insights, emotional resonance, lived experience that great copywriters and art directors can bring. That the demand of that, the authenticity, the imperfection, the value of that, Anton, is only going to rise. So the people that are good at that and are going to sharpen their toolkit when it comes to that. I know what I said sounds intangible, but artists are intangible, right? Like I think of them as almost as artists. So the future that's proliferated by AI actually belongs to artists such as copywriters or art directors who can not only define brand voice, but define brand voice innovation roadmaps and actually help identify emotional territories that competitors aren't exploring, and then almost co create strategic frameworks with the likes of yourselves who are experts at that, that actually guide AI usage. So, do you see how their roles have actually transformed from being just in the crucible of creativity to actually being the guides of saying, this is how we are going to use AI and make it a better machine rather than just a slot machine? So, they will become, I feel, and this is just my humble prediction, they will become the curators of AI outputs. They will become brand voice strategists, and they will actually, in a very grand way, become the architects of human AI creative collaboration if they play their cards right.
Nice. You sure you haven't worked in an agency? Very good thing.
They didn't
Nick.
hire me. They didn't hire me.
Oh,
Fun story. Fun story. Almost got hired into RGA once, and then they were like, "Oh, you don't have an agency background." I was like, "Yeah, but I never worked in one. How do I have? How do I get
Yeah.
an agency
they'll
background?"
be, they'll be kicking themselves now, Dee, when they're watching this.
Uh,
Nick, in terms of creatives of the future and meeting AI, what do they need to do?
What Dee said.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I've always understood like agencies, creatives, the people that are building communications as like custodians of the brand.
Yeah.
And they take that pretty damn seriously. Like they eat it, they live it, and then they bring. And again, clients can really underestimate this, but and they really pour themselves into the work, and I think that AI might struggle to keep up with that, bringing that human frailty with them for all of that imperfection and joy that goes with it. I think the the stuff that breaks logic, like using non-logic to go further, is the stuff that makes the leap happen. And I think that creatives are the people that do that better than anybody. They understand that more. And I think, as I like to think of people in those positions as kind of craftspeople, and AI is a tool. The crafts doesn't stop happening because they've got a new hammer, hammer. It's there for a purpose. Empower the people to use it, and you'll get there. I think the big change, though, and the industry's already feeling it, is that we just don't need as many. You know what I mean? And so it's going to be very interesting to see how that profession shapes itself moving forwards. How become like the tool is moving too quickly to say it is what it is. There's no point being good at it today because it's going to be different tomorrow. But if they're on that journey and we can bring people into this domain who want to be craftspeople on behalf of brands, that's going to be something to watch. They will learn how to use this tool more effectively into the future, and we're going to see more and more interesting stuff being developed. The speed of turnaround, the ability to explore ideas is going to happen faster and like in more interesting ways. Like you go from, spitballing 50 ideas into having storyboards for like 10 of them within 2 hours. You know what I mean? Like that never happened. And so, you hope that process continues to happen. The number of people that you need to do that process, though, is just going to be smaller. But you still need that human in the loop. You absolutely have to have that someone who's going to feel passionately about what the brand could stand for and where it could go that defies logic.
Do you think that the creative industry should be intimidated by AI?
Should be, say that again.
Do you believe that the creative industry should be intimidated by AI?
I don't think they are.
Okay.
No, I mean, I think most creators I know, but when given the chance to play with AI and see what it can do for their ideas, are well happy. You know what I mean? Like I see people when they just get given the time to go and explore, they love where it can go. I think they're intimidated by the reshaping of an industry. They're intimidated by the threat of over-indexing on efficiency, which is real and fair. You just don't need the same like writers that you might have had for writing social posts that you've had in the past. But you know, there's still plenty of skill and need in driving where brands can go. There's, I guess, that point about saying, don't just say, great, I can spend less money now. Say, where can I genuinely take this that's interesting? How can I encourage the craft in the way that my brand is communicated, that is empowered by AI and not threatened by it?
And are you kind of experiencing, I guess, whether it's the creative industry or even kind of, I suppose, marketeers within, I guess, organizations such as yourself, an intimidation or feeling of a threat of AI at all? Or what's the sentiment, do you think?
I think I'll borrow from what Nick said. It's a new hammer, and I think it's Thor's hammer. So there is definitely a sense of we don't know this well enough yet, but we have to. So I think we could either approach it with intimidation or we could approach it with curiosity. The choice is ours. And I think that choice is going to make all the difference. I think if we've got Thor's hammer at our disposal, curiosity should be the emotion we should approach it with.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting. I think you're right, and I think we're kind of past the stage now where agencies, creative agencies, for example, should be adopting AI. It absolutely is in there, and in every agency, whether it's the desk research part of strategy or whether it is indeed the kind of, I guess, generation of imagery or storyboards, etc., or assets from the creative kind of side of things. I think those that start to be at the tip of the spear of embracing it, and the ones that are fully embedding it throughout every kind of process within a creative agency are the ones that will survive versus those that, I guess, the laggards. And I guess that kind of coined the term digital Darwinism, whereby it will weed out those that aren't embracing it, I suppose, and it will push those that are right to the front.
So many people, like agencies, I thought they were the early adopters. Sitting where I sit, you kind of like, AI is a thing. Let's go and talk to agencies about it. You're like, they're already on it. I've had colleagues that get laughed out of the room just because the agency is on it. You know what I mean? They don't need us to come and like say it's a thing. They're on it, but there's just going to be parts of things that, they just don't need to be done the same way. So change is the thing that people rightfully can be afraid of. That's fair. But AI itself, I think it's an exciting tool for many people in the business. I remember as a client, I had to go on a shoot once, and it was a product sitting on a park bench with like birds and the sun coming up, and it was a full shoot, catering, all that kind of stuff. And the product's sitting on a bench, and they go, action. Like we didn't need to do that. Like AI would just fix that, like let's not do that shoot. Now I'm sorry that the production company doesn't get, the revenue, but that it makes sense that we don't do that. So it's change, but where else do we then start to drive better ideas and more interesting work? And I think it's a reinvestment back into strategy, bigger questions around differentiation, also just fantastic learnings around like the measurement we're getting back on our creativity. Definitely we should be embracing more of that. It just becomes a better industry, a much more well-recognized industry if we could do that.
Getting us back up to being a proper consultant and partner, and having that, I guess, that position from a creative standpoint. But with that in mind, and I suppose creative agencies aren't working at the likes of Google, creative agencies will have access to essentially all the same tools, pretty much. that's out on the market. Whether it is those that are helping them with, I guess the strategy development part, or indeed kind of creative development part, or the production part. And if we all have access to the same tools, and if we're all kind of using them in pretty much the same way, are we running the risk of, a robotic kind of sameness crisis, whereby we could be wandering into everything looking like an ad that has been very much generated by AI versus the craft of camera and film, etc. So with the embrace of AI, are we, is there a threat that we're going to wander into a sea of sameness that we critique kind of categories for doing, but is the creative industry potentially going to start wandering into that? What would you say, Dee?
There is a definite risk of that, isn't it? I think we're seeing some of it already. And then there is going to be very soon a turning point when we reach a critical mass, when we will realize that optimizing for the algorithm is not the best thing to do. And then we are going to take a risk. We're going to take a creative risk and not optimize for the algorithm, but create distinctive memory structures or distinctive experiences for the customers or the consumers, and get them to remember us, even though the algorithm doesn't favor that story or that creative or that social. Because we'll realize that if all of us are the same, then who's differentiated? That's just a lesson, Anton, in this journey of AI that we will have to learn. But is that already happening? Yeah, 100%. It's just part of the journey.
Yeah. I mean, and this journey is going to be a long one. I mean, I'd love to be able to kind of continue talking, but I'm being told that I need to wrap up, which is unfortunate, because I'd love to be able to talk to you about this for ages and ages, and then, like I said, steal both of your ideas and pretend they're mine, and seemingly look smarter.
Well authentic.
The smart. So what I would like to do is wrap it up with a punchy kind of one-liner from both of yourselves. If you both could state what you think very quickly, what marketeers should be doing and must do, and what they must not do when it comes to the world of AI, what would it be? We'll go with you first, Nick.
Embrace human creativity, embrace the human in the loop, and embrace the chaos, but keep experimenting. Like it's a wide open area, and it's going to move for a long time yet. So I don't think you can lean into it too hard. I just get into it. And certainly what you shouldn't do is just look at it as an efficiency opportunity. You know what I mean? That's just really undercapitalizing it. It's not just a way to save a bit of money on production. It must go a bit further than that. Dee.
Fantastic. Dee.
I think the must do is to have a strategy. Even if it takes time, even if it takes trial and error, understand why you need AI and where are you going to deploy it. Define for your brand what you will and won't automate based on your brand values and the relationship you have with your customer. And it cannot just be efficiency. I say that over and over again. You're going to be bored in no time, and it's going to not be in your best interest. That's the must do. The must not do is do not use AI to just imitate trends that everybody else is following. That's like, Anton, you know what I'm talking about, when there used to be a pop culture moment and every brand would jump into it. This is not that. This is going to cost you your brand's differentiation. Do not use AI to imitate the trends that everyone else is doing. I know it's fun for now, but what this is going to do is it's going to create a circular reference loop that will lead to what we call content convergence rather than brand differentiation. So I know it's fun in the short term, but in the long term, it's your brand that will pay the price, and you do not want that.
Uniqueness. Fantastic. Thank you very much indeed, both of you. And thank you for joining. I was just going to say on the last note, that was us kind of concluding how brands can navigate the AI effect on social media. Thank you very much to our fantastic panelists, Nick and Dee. You've been wonderful. And I've been your host, Anton Rainiers. If there are any questions, do please get in touch with us at talktous@wearesocial.net. And if there are indeed any kind of questions that you'd like to talk to us specifically around the likes of AI, please feel free to. And with that, thank you very much, everybody. Take care and goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye.